Saludos desde Barcelona. It's been a while since I posted, and there's a lot that's been going on, so I have a big fat life update to give you. So I actually wrote like a list of things that I wanted to talk about. So let's get into it. So the big news this week is that I have my Thai card. What is a Thai card and why is it a big deal? Okay, really briefly, very, very short lesson on immigrating to Spain. As a foreigner coming to live in Spain on a permanent or long-term basis, there are two things that you have to do as soon as you get here. The first is get your Thai card, and it stands for Tarjeta Identidad de Extranjero. It's basically a foreigner's identification card. And that card basically proves to any governmental agency in Spain that you are a legal resident of Spain, which is really important if you want to do something like access the public healthcare system, which is an issue for us because of something I'm going to talk about a little bit later. Like a really good example is we went to register me as Justin's dependent in the Social Security system of Spain. And because we didn't both have our Thai cards, they were like, well, we can't do it here. We're gonna have to send your application into the central processing and it's probably gonna take a month. Whereas if we both had our Thai cards, they could have done it on site that day. Yeah, you need it anytime you interact with the Spanish government in any capacity. So it's pretty important. I picked mine up today. Justin had his appointment to apply for his about 2 weeks ago, so it's going to be another 2 weeks before his is ready to pick up. And once we both have our Thai cards, just a lot of things are going to become a lot easier or even possible. The other thing that you have to do is you have to register what's called your empadronamiento, which is basically registering with the local municipality where you live. And that's important also for accessing the public healthcare system, and also like if we had kids, that would enable them to attend public school, lots and lots of different things. So the empadronamiento and the Thai card are both really important. We have the empadron done. We did that a while ago. That was online and it wasn't a big deal. The Thai card, you have to go to the local police station in your municipality and apply for it, which is the thing. That was a whole day process. It was exhausting. And then you have to wait a month. So I just got finished waiting the month for mine. So yeah, that's really important. I have mine, Justin's gonna have his in a couple weeks. That's really huge. And while we're on the subject of the public healthcare system, so some of you I think already know, a couple of weeks ago I had a bit of an accident. I was lying in bed and I got up very quickly to go to the bathroom and get something, and I started having a head rush. So this is very common. The technical medical term for it is orthostatic hypotension. Basically it means the blood pressure to your head drops when you stand up because the blood suddenly rushes to your legs. And so your brain is starved of oxygen and you can get dizzy and you can fall over. I also have a history of these. I can have pretty severe ones where I black out for a second, or I've even had like a very mild seizure, which is apparently a symptom. So I figured I was just gonna have a head rush. I grabbed onto the vanity to sort of steady myself, figuring it would pass in a few seconds. And then I blacked out completely and I woke up on the floor bleeding. I had apparently completely passed out and fallen over and hit the back of my head on the edge of our shower. Hard enough that I tore my scalp open and I was bleeding. So I was pretty out of it. We decided that I needed to go to the emergency room because head wounds are not a thing to mess with. So we went to the closest Spanish hospital, which I think is called Valhebron. And we went to the emergency room and they gave me a CT scan and they did some blood work. We were there for like 12 hours waiting for, because this happened like 11 o'clock at night, maybe 11:30 at night. So it was the middle of the night. We were there for like 12 hours. That is not an exaggeration. We left 12 hours after we got there. Fortunately, the CT scan and the blood work showed nothing concerning. I hadn't done any serious injury to my brain or my skull. The doctors were, of course, very worried about why I fainted. I wasn't. Again, because I have a history of this. My doctor in the United States was concerned enough about this that he referred me to both a cardiologist and a neurologist, and I had a battery of tests. This was like a year ago, maybe a year and a half. I did a tilt table test. I wore a heart monitor. I had to be hooked. I remember they hooked me up to a machine that monitored my brain activity when I was asleep. And all of that stuff showed absolutely nothing abnormal. And the conclusion was just, you're very prone to this sort of thing and you need to be careful. And I wasn't careful. But I'm fine. Again, all the tests showed that nothing was wrong. I did have to have some surgical staples put in my head, which was not fun because apparently they don't give you anesthesia for that if it's a scalp wound. So that wasn't fun. And I've had them out now because it's more than 10 days after. So last week I went in and I had them pull the staples. So I'm fine. The only problem with that is that I wasn't properly registered as a resident of Spain in the healthcare system. And so now we are having some back and forth with the hospital about whether or not there is a bill for us to pay. Fortunately, healthcare in Spain is not as ruinously expensive as it is in the United States, where this would probably be tens of thousands of dollars. It probably won't be that much, but it won't be cheap either. So we're a little worried about that. We'll just have to see. Right now, I think the hospital is waiting on us to finish our registration in the Social Security system, which we're still trying to do, and we'll see. Yeah, not great. Also, it's not a lot of fun trying to negotiate emergency health care in a language you don't speak. Fortunately, we muddled through. Enough of the staff spoke enough English and we spoke enough Spanish that we were able to make it work. So learning Spanish, I'm still having a very hard time becoming conversational in Spanish. And the more I think about it, the more I think that there's some of that is psychological. I get very nervous when people talk to me in Spanish, and I think that makes it a lot harder for me to listen and understand and formulate a response. Really good example, this happened just today as I was coming back from my Thai card appointment. There was an older lady who was coming into the building at the same time as me, and we both got into the elevator at the same time, and the Spanish elevators are very small, so we were very close. And she asked me, "Oh, are you guys the new neighbors?" in Spanish. And I understood what she was saying, at least enough to know that that's generally what she was asking, and my brain just went blank. I couldn't have remembered a word of Spanish if my life depended on it. And so we had a very awkward elevator ride and I got out on my floor. And when I got into the apartment, I was like, what? Like I could have said, sí, me llamo Kyle, mi marido se llama Justin, nos mudamos aquí por el trabajo de Justin, estamos nuevo al barrio. Like my Spanish is not great, but it's more than sufficient to have a casual conversation like that. So, I don't know. Maybe with time that will get better. The other thing I would say in connection to not being able to speak Spanish is that it can feel very isolating. The more so I think because Justin at least gets to go to an office where most people can speak English. That may not be their native language, but they can speak it. Whereas I am here alone a lot of the time, or out in the barrio trying to do things and trying to interact with people. many of whom do not speak English. And so that is a very lonely feeling. Yeah. I don't know. I'm trying to keep in contact with my friends in the United States to try and help with the sense of isolation, but I can see one of the things that we learned when we were doing reading about expats and why they typically didn't stay in foreign countries is because they said they felt isolated, and I completely understand that now. Justin's job seems to be going well. From what he's telling me, the company seems to care a lot about employee morale and well-being. They do a lot of team building stuff. He just came back from a 2-day retreat in Malta, which is where their company HQ is, where they were celebrating like their 10-year anniversary. There were lots of like games and food and, just from what I'm hearing, it seems like a very nice place to work. Of course, he's very anxious and freaking out, which, he's Justin, when is he not? But I think also some of that is just starting any new job. He was like this. I remember him being like this when he started work at Raptive and at Fast Track. Just like the first couple of months, he's like, what am I doing here? I'm gonna get fired, yada, yada, yada. And then eventually he settles down. So I think it's going well. In my previous video, I think I had said, or the one before that, I had said that we had made the decision that we were going to stay here at least a year. When we were originally planning doing this, the plan was we were going to stay here for 3 months, then decide if we wanted to stay here on a more permanent basis. And if we decided to stay here on a more permanent basis, I would go back to the United States and I would handle our house, whatever we decided to do with the house, whether we're going to sell it or rent it. And then I would come back to Spain, and we agreed that I would not look for work until I got back from that trip to the United States. Because there's no point in me trying to find a job or finding a job and then being like, well, I got to go to the United States for 2 weeks. Bye. It just didn't make any sense. So because we've made that decision early, I will be coming back to the United States a little early. We've actually booked the flights already. I'm going to be coming back. I'll start flying out on September the 16th, and I will leave the United States on September the 30th. So I'll be there about 2 weeks. While I'm there, I'll finish packing up our house. We've decided that we're going to rent it. So I'll be dealing with the property management agency that we select. We haven't picked one yet, but I think Justin has one in mind. So I'll be talking to them about whatever needs to be done to get that ready to happen. I'll make the arrangements to move all of our stuff out of our house in the United States and put it into a storage unit. So in the next couple of weeks, we'll be looking for a place with a storage unit big enough to handle all the furniture from a 4-bedroom house. And then I will fly back to Spain, and at that point I will start looking for work. So I'll be back in the United States, yay, for a little while. Yeah, and lastly, finding work. I'm pretty worried about being able to find a job, honestly. My lack of proficiency in Spanish means that most jobs in Spain I'm not going to be hireable for, even though I'm legally allowed to be. My visa is such that I could work for anyone in Spain or the EU or America if I wanted to, or if they wanted to hire me. So the legality of it isn't a problem, but most places of business in Spain are going to want you to speak Spanish at a pretty good level, which I can't. So I would probably be looking for remote work. Either somewhere in the EU or somewhere in the United States where English is the primary office language, like Justin's office where English is the primary work language. The problem with that is that AI is really tightening up the job market in almost every area where I have work skills and qualifications. Writing, computer programming, both of those fields are contracting. Because of the effect of AI. And it would have to be remote work, because I'm in Spain. I don't know, man, it just seems like it's gonna be really hard. I talked about maybe being an English instructor, but after working with somebody whose job is to teach people Spanish, you need really good fluency in that person's native language in order to explain language concepts to them. Like my tutor speaks very good English, and that's really not negotiable. So I imagine if I wanted to teach Spanish-speaking people English, I would have to speak pretty good Spanish, which I don't. Yeah, I don't know. I'm really worried that it's going to take me a very long time to find a job, or that I won't be able to find a job. I don't know, we'll have to see. Yeah, so that's all the news with us. I got tired of sitting at the table, so I'm going to give you a view of the very pretty terrace today. Unfortunately, it's very, very hot, so I will not be going out there. I love you all. Bye.